Hi, welcome to another Canto Roboflow training movie. In this training movie, I will show you how to set vocabulary field values. If you are not yet familiar with vocabulary fields, then I suggest you look on YouTube for a training movie called Canto Cumulus 10 vocabulary fields. This gives you an introduction of how vocabulary fields work in Cumulus. Once you are knowledgeable about vocabulary fields, this training movie can help you a lot. Before starting, I'd like to mention that you can always check what version of Roboflow you're running, and the things that I will be demonstrating today requires Roboflow 10.2.11. And so if you do not have that version, please update to it or just send me an email. What is the idea? I have in a Cumulus environment created, defined some lists. As you know, you do that by setting categories with a certain container type, so that container type is discussed in the other movie, is something you create up front, and then you can create these list values. Now I'm just going to delete some to show you that the system can assign and also can create content types. I have a Cumulus field in my sample catalog, which I called keyword list, and here it is. And just for the purpose of this test, I'm going to make it empty for my test record. So I have 3 test records, so for each record I can make it empty. As you can see, I'll show you again. If I do a find, it finds orange, and I can assign it, or I can just throw it away. So I'm going to throw it away because for this example I'm going to start from scratch. Okay. What is defined here is in the catalog preferences, I defined that it can use 2 lists, and so you can define 1 or 2, doesn't matter. So if I go here to keyword in the sample catalog records and sort it alphabetically, of course, then I end up with my keyword list. And here I defined that this type of list is can select its values from the color container type or from the material container type. So I've created a tab-delimited text in which I have in the first column the file name, in the second column the field I want to set, and in the third column the values I want to set. You can set either the values separated by semicolons or by commas. And here, as an example, as a bad example, I'm adding here a space in front. It will not bother about the spaces. It will remove trailing or prefix spaces from any keyword, so it does not accept any spaces in front or in the back. If I now run the workflow, then we will see what happens. I will show you in a minute the workflow itself, of course, but just as a first getting to know how it works, I'm just running the workflow. And you can see that it has added blue, green, and orange. And for the other one, it added black and blue. And for the third one, it just added blue. If we have a look at the $workflows category, sorry, not dollar workflows, dollars vocabularies. Here we go. Colors, and now it has also created those extra categories. Now imagine that you don't want to the value created if it doesn't exist. There is a syntax for that as well. You can specify, for instance, if you have a color here like this one, and you would say exclamation mark, then it will not create the color if it does not exist. You have to specify the exclamation mark in front of each keyword that you do not want to create as new if it does not exist. So if I run the workflow again, and I say start, I can do show log, and the workflow I'll show in a minute. I'm showing you the values before, so before this one and after exactly the same, because we didn't change anything. Here we were saying I want to set this, and it says before it's blue and after it's still that blue, and so it didn't set it because it doesn't exist, and it doesn't want to add it if it doesn't exist. So that's how you can avoid that. Imagine that you want to create it, but you want to create it with a specific content type. So in your catalog, you can specify that a field, if I go to the sample catalog, a field has the ability to take values from multiple lists, then it will just by default add it to the first list. So in this field I defined that it could add it to, that it could use color and material, but when it creates it, it will just look for the first one it encounters, and it will take that one. And so in this case that would be color. But if you want to avoid that behavior, if you want to say I want to control to which content type you're going, then you just have to look in your vocabularies field, in your dollar vocabularies, and here in container type, you want the container type of a specific value. Well, you just look in your string list editor and you see I want a new one to be assigned to material instead of color. So then that is something you can do. So only if it is assigned to this particular catalog, of course, catalog field, and then whatever that may be. And then here in the field, I can say, instead of, I can say yes, you can create it, but make it content type 2. This is very useful in case you have something like white lists and black and gray lists. Maybe you want to make a big distinction between the values that were already there and the ones that automatically are added, because that makes them easier to review. You can say, okay, let's have a look of what was added under the gray list container or container type. So here I'm setting the container type to 2, so it will not be assigned to color, but it will be assigned to materials. So if I now run the workflow again, start, and I have a look, and I go to my other catalog. Don't know what this is exactly, but something is updating the database. So nothing changed here. Of course, I didn't change any entrance. It did assign blue, and it says that if you look very carefully, it says container type material. So it has created material, container type material. In the vocabularies catalog, you will see that it has added that apple blue, but it didn't add it under materials because it doesn't know about materials. This is just a category, just an organization that you're setting up. If you want to force a new category not only to have a certain container type, but also that it is assigned to a specific subcategory, then you can do that as well. So if I go here and it says, oh, yes, I want to keep it. And here I will be specifying the ID of the record under which I want to assign it. So I'm setting the category ID and then the container type. So the category ID of the parent catalog category of this new category. This is of course only used if it doesn't exist. Once it exists, it ignores this part. So it does allow you to do some very specific and extended functionalities. All you need to do is figure out the ID, and then you can assign it, and the ID never changes, so you're sure to be safe there. So let's see, this file has been saved, and now I can say, oh, careful, Apple, it's not going to do anything because it already exists. So I'm going to say apple pie, something like this, making sure it doesn't exist. And now if I run the workflow again, start, if you say show log, what do you see? It says, okay, setting, it had apple blue, but we're setting it now to apple pie. So it has created apple pie. And so if we check in the catalog, we can see that it nicely created apple pie under materials. And if we're looking into the record itself, here, this record, we can see that it assigned apple pie. So this is basically how this can work. It assigns vocabulary values, which are actually categories from your vocabulary catalog. Let's have a quick look into how the workflow does it. Well, the workflow in this example is a hot folder import vocabularies workflow. So hot folder means it looks into a folder, it picks up the files that you allow it to pick up. In this case, I'm dropping a text file. And then in this example, I create a target folder where I copy the processed file to. I set the catalog I want to work in and the record field I want to work with. Because I have the record field here in my tab-delimited text file, I just point to that particular element in the rows. I will show you in a minute what this means, but it picks up the value of whatever is in element 2 of a row, and the row will be a row of a table, and the table that I'm reading from the text file. And then I specify the query, and the query is exactly the same thing. I'm looking for the record name, which is in the first column, and so which is here in the first column, second column, and then the value is the third column. And so that's how I predefine that. I usually try to put in my workflow everything that could change in the parameters, and then I just call for it, look it up with a tag instruction in my script itself. So I'm storing a target folder, which means I'm storing and creating it if it does not exist. I open the catalog, which I pick up from the Cumulus catalog variable that I had in the first. I copy the file to that location, and then I'm storing the file, reading the file as a table, so rows and columns. And then I'm saying process this table row by row and output it as each row as a variable row. And that gives me the opportunity to talk to that row that way with the square brackets and saying column 2, column 1, column 3. And so then I perform the query, which I defined in the parameters, and I write to the log how many records that I found. And then I'm processing those records and say, give me all the records, and each record I'll be talking to it as it will be called hot. And then now I'm processing the records. Normally it should only be one, but you can assign as many records as you like. In this case, it was just an example of searching for the record name. I'm storing the record name because I want to output it in the log. I'm storing the value that I'm going to set. I'm picking it up from the parameters. It's the value that I want to set, and it's actually not the value but the name of the field in this case. Then I'm saying I'm writing that to the log, and I'm setting a field value. So I'm saying, okay, you can set here the field value of that particular field. And afterwards I'm storing the value once again. That's why I was doing this, because I'm writing this to the log file and making an entry of the version, the current version and the previous version. And so before it sets the value and after it sets the value. In a normal workflow, you might not have to do that, but in this example, I wanted to make it very clear that it is changing the value. So a very simple workflow, and of course we stop by closing the catalog, which is necessary since we opened it in this script. So a very simple example. You're not using any special instructions to set a field value. You're just using the set field value text, and you're picking up the field name and you're picking up the value from the row. And that's all there is to it. One final remark, in this case it is setting the value. You can also add the value. If you want to add the value, then you have to prefix the name of the field with a plus sign, and like for any field, like you have for also text fields, if you say plus notes instead of notes, it appends the value. So the same here, you can append string list values. So this was a pretty extensive introduction to how to set vocabulary field values. Also how to get vocabulary field values. Maybe I didn't mention it, but if there's multiple values, it will be returned separated by commas. And be very careful. If you look in the log, and of course there's I have to download it because it's no longer running. Be careful if you look in the log, and we'll go to the last example that we did. It returns the values with spaces. So if you need to process this for another reason, need to do something and need the individual values, be careful to remember that it has added a comma space when you're reading the value. And this is just standard behavior. This gives you the display value of this field. So thank you for joining this training movie, and looking forward to see you in the next one. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. You can find me in the community or under my email address. Thank you. Bye.